Hello, it's Paul from ESPC, and with me today it is
Kimberly, also from ESPC.
nice to see you, Kimberly, and we're here to talk about the ESPC Digest. It's our new show. We're going to have a little look at the what's been happening in the property market in the last quarter, and then we've got another little bit that we're going to talk about, and that's second steppers. What is a second stepper, Kimberly?
Second stepper is just a term that we use here at ESPC, and it's essentially people who are moving into their second home. So we talk a lot about first-time buyers and we talk a lot about experienced buyers, but a second stepper generally sort of sits in between that. They might be someone who's maybe moving on from their one-bedroom flat, maybe into something maybe sort of 2 or 3 bedrooms, maybe not quite in their big family home yet. So it's just someone who sits in the middle.
Okay, great. Because Megan and I, when we're on the podcast, we talk a lot about first-time buyers. So it's nice to talk about the, for those of a certain generation, the hot steppers. Here comes the hot stepper. Only I will remember that song. Somebody on their minds. But yeah, we'll be talking about second steppers in the second half of the show. But yeah, shall we get started? Okay, so first thing that we're going to have a little look at is what's been happening in the marketplace, and yeah, it's safe to say last year was a turbulent year, wasn't it, Kimberly?
Was, and I think it was, it was quite worrying for everyone. Anyone who was remortgaging, perhaps anyone who was thinking of buying or thinking of selling. All the news and all the sort of Bank of England changes were quite worrying for everyone. I think that put a lot of people off, perhaps putting their property up for sale or going and buying a property. And so we just saw a lot of turbulence in the market. I think now we're starting to see things level out a little bit. We're becoming a bit more familiar with this norm. I think this might be a norm for a while. And so what we are seeing, what we have seen at the start of this year is more sort of sales, more properties coming to market, which is probably quite a few people who were maybe last year put off putting their properties up and buying as well. We're quite often asked sort of when is the right time to buy or sell? And our answer is always when it's the right time for you. And I think at the moment for a lot of people, it's the right time for them. Paul, do you have anything else to add to that?
I'd completely agree. I'm going to say that a lot today. I know I am, but absolutely right. I think if we came into last year, we had interest rates at 3.5. We then went out to 4%. We had inflation running at 10.1%, and there was talk of the apocalypse, and it was going to be really bad. So there was a lot of uncertainty. There was a real turbulence in the market last year. So if it was the year of turbulence, I think this year's been started as the year of a lot more certainty or more certainty in the marketplace. I think generally activity, when people are feeling more confident about what's happening, generally they tend to do things. They'll put it off when they're uncertain, and they'll do things when they're feeling a little bit more about, they've got a feel for how the market might be. So listings were up 21.8%. So, a lot more properties coming to the market. I think a lot of sellers now can see that there's choice out there for them. So they're feeling confident to put their own property on the market. And as you're saying, we can see this in the graph. Sales volumes were up on last year. We're up 13.4%. So more properties selling. And we're starting, if you drew a line across there, you'd see that we're almost comparable where we were in February 2022, which was a good year for the marketplace. So I think, yeah, in summary, it's starting to feel a little bit like February. Sorry, not February. Starting to feel a little bit like 2022. And if we move on, let's have a little look at the, I glibly use the phrase time to sell, but do you want to maybe give a little bit more of an explanation around this, Kimberly?
Yeah, of course. So the median time to sell is essentially the time between when a property first is listed on espc.com right through to when an offer is accepted on the property. So at the moment, that the average time is sort of 27 days. It's a wee bit longer than what we've seen in sort of previous months. So when we look back in 2023, that's 4 days slower and 9 days slower than 2022. It does look a little bit like these stats have been skewed, as there were a number of properties that struggled to sell over the last year, and they're now going under offer just due to increased interest from buyers and more people coming to market as well and having a wee look around. Anything else, Paul, that you want to just mention there?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think certainly what we've seen is there's been certain properties, we're calling them the stickier properties, the ones that didn't sell immediately. And again, it's about getting your pricing strategy right at the beginning. There's a piece on espc.com that we've done, which talks about pricing strategy. Well worth a read. It's only 2 minutes, but it's really good. But we do talk about this. And I think what we've seen in the start of this year is what we call seller capitulation. So those sellers that have been on the market a long time, I've sort of put the Christmas decorations away in January and thought, we just need to get out of this place. And an offer's come along and they've accepted that offer. But because those properties have been on a while, that's slightly skewed, as you say, the average selling time to accept an offer. So that's why it's gone out. It's still really good. If we look at the comparison with the rest of the UK, which is in the months, we're still in the weeks. You know, it's still under a month, even in February, which is a short month, as we know. So yeah, it's still looking pretty brisk out there, I would say. Let's dive into the next bit then. We're going to talk about pricing strategy. Again, I'm not going to make a second plug for my pricing strategy piece just yet. I am going to talk about sort of the approach to the market. And again, when solicitor estate agents and many of our ESPC solicitor estate agents are feeling a lot more confident now about the marketplace. And so as a consequence, properties are being listed as offers over. So 85% of properties are coming to the market as offers over versus 77.5% in the corresponding period last year. So again, slight tilt and probably just a sign of feeling a lot more confidence about the marketplace this year.
And I think when we look at this graph here as well, we can see the sort of the numbers moving up. It definitely looks like it's moving in the direction that we were seeing in 2022, which was a really positive year. So hopefully we're still on track for another positive year, just like 2022 as well.
There's a theme developing here, isn't it, Kimberly, I think?
Exactly.
Okay, and yeah, so now we're just going to have a little look at home reports and what ultimately what sellers are achieving. And you can see there the premiums come down a little bit, hasn't it, Kimberly?
Yeah, exactly. So just for anyone who isn't sure about what this stat actually means, this is the sale price achieved versus the home report value. So basically, if the home report value is £100,000, but the sale price is £110,000, the percentage of the home report valuation paid is 110%. But just one thing to note on that, if you're purchasing with a mortgage provider will only give you the money up to the home report valuation. Anything over that is cash and has to be money that you can pay, just similar to what you would pay with a deposit as well. So that's just something to know. Paul, what are your thoughts on what we're seeing here?
Yeah, as you say, I think it's good news for first-time buyers. So they're not having to fund that gap, as you say. We were seeing premiums of 10% at some point last year on some properties. I mean, we still are on, you know, for the right property in the right location where there's hot demand. But generally, as I say, things have leveled off. Couple of reasons. One, I think the actual valuations themselves, the surveyors use historical data, so that's sort of caught up with the marketplace. But I think the other thing that's really impacted on the percentage over home report valuation, the average, because we are talking about the average here, is there were quite a few properties which sold below the home report valuation. So 70.6% of properties achieved a home report valuation or higher, which means 29.4% didn't. And I think those 29.4%, what we're seeing there, it may be, again, some of the more stickier properties. We have heard from our ESPC solicitor estate agents, people, as I say, selling capitulation, finally accepting an offer, let's just get moved. So I think that's had a contributing factor as well. So there's a number of things. Plus as well, there's more choice out there. So you see buyers making an offer on one property, and if it isn't accepted, they'll go and find another similar property because there's 30% more stock available than this time last year. So there's a number of contributing factors really. But as I say, I think certainly from a buyer's point of view, I think it's good news for first-time buyers. And also from a seller's point of view, I don't think they need to be too fearful that they're not getting that big premium, because most sellers are buyers and ultimately you're not paying as much for your next property. And if you're taking a step up, that means as a percentage, you're in a better place than you would have been this time last year, really. Okay, so that's where we are with the premium that's being paid. And I thought just before we close off here, Kimberly, we'll just have a look at the average sales price. What can I say? Well, what I think we can say is that the average sales price is still higher than it was in 2022. I think if you were looking at a graph, you might think house prices have fallen significantly. That's not the case. We've seen the sale of more lower priced properties, which has had an impact on the overall average selling price. I think we said before, selling more Ford Pumas and less Ferraris last year. So that's had an impact on the marketplace. But overall, as I say, the market's in good health. And I think, I suppose, if I was to summarize, you know, as a seller, probably the key message to a seller is not to be fearful of the market. You know, yes, you probably aren't going to get the premium you would have got on the property that you're selling, but equally, and the one that you're buying is probably going to be a little bit cheaper than it was this time last year for you. So I think overall, as I say, it feels like a more balanced market for buyers and sellers out there. Okay, here we are, second part of the show. The second step is upsizing, as we've called it here. And for this, we've taken the scenario of a first-time buyer that's bought a property and is now thinking they maybe want a bit more space, or they're starting a family. And, you know, what it would mean, how do they go about making that all-important second step? And it's a debate, you know, the differential between staying where you are and maybe trying to do some work to extend, if that's possible, not always possible in a flat, as we know, or convert rooms, or to move. And we're going to take a deeper dive into what the numbers mean and what's the price difference between doing those things. So I'm going to let you drive, Kimberly. I'm going to pass over to you. So we should have a look at the slide.
Yeah, so I think firstly, what we need to have a wee look at is where we're seeing the most volumes of two-bedroom flats. So we have a few hotspots. The main ones are Leith, Dunfermline and Musselburgh. They seem to be where two-bedroom flat buyers are flocking to. When we look at 2023 sales stats in these areas, so in Leith we had 178 two-bedroom flat sales, in Dunfermline it was 172, and in Musselburgh it was 74. So let's just say that for ease of lifestyle, these homeowners wanted to make the move from their two-bedroom flats to a three-bedroom house. Maybe they're looking for a garden, some more space. We just want to have a look at what the difference in price is on average between your two-bedroom flat and your three-bedroom houses in each area. So in Dunfermline, there's a £73,500 difference in price on average. That's about a 57% change. In Leith, it's about a £150,000 difference, and that's about a 62% change. And in Musselburgh, it's a £99,800 pound difference there as well, which is about a 54% difference. So it's quite a jump. That'll either mean that you'll need to have some savings, or there might be a bit of a change in your mortgage. There might be a slight difference in your loan to value there as well. And interest rates might have changed a bit since you first bought your two-bedroom flats to buying a three-bedroom house as well. Paul, do you have any other sort of thoughts on that?
I do, and we should say it does get better, doesn't it, Kimberly? Because at the end we've got some places where are very, you know, what we class as affordable, where the leap isn't quite as great. And I think this does explain a few things. When we look at the market, it's always about supply and demand, and we know that there's a good supply of two-bedroom flats, and yet when we look at three-bedroom properties in the same area, like Leith or Dunfermline or Musselburgh, you know, and you want to make that leap and you've built your lifestyle around there and you don't want to move too far away, these are the properties which do attract a premium, because there's a lot of people looking for the similar type of property, and there's only a sort of finite supply. So that's one of the reasons why we are seeing you know, an uptick in some of these prices. Really, it is explained by that second step. I suppose let's zoom out a little bit now. Then this is quite an interesting slide, because the next one we take a wider look, and that differential is 23% on average when we look at Edinburgh, Lothians, Fife and Scottish borders. And, you know, within there, again, we don't want to preempt the next slide, but we do talk about some of these areas where it is more affordable. If we do look at the city centre, as we know, it's very hard in the city centre to make that transition. It's a 47% increase to get that extra bedroom. And there's key reasons for that, as we know. There's a lot of historical Victorian Georgian properties that they're not building an abundance of property in the centre because it just isn't the space. And so, as such, properties will attract a premium. We've seen that year on year in the average house price report that we do. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. But you know, these are the averages. Broad brushstrokes. It's probably worthwhile, isn't it, Kimberly, looking at the individual locations where there are, you know, where the leap isn't as great, and perhaps maybe want to share that slide.
Yeah, exactly. So here are some of the areas that we've found just from our data that are a little bit more affordable in terms of three-bedroom houses. A little bit of a mix, a little bit out of the city centre, but all have sort of great commuter links and sort of are really great for perhaps small families or people just wanting to have a little bit more space, a bit more outdoor space as well. So when we look at Fife, so we have the Scythe, that has a £164,900 average sale price. Kirkcaldy, another popular area in Fife, £182,100 average selling price. Dunfermline, so that's at £201,500 on average selling price. When we move over to West Lothian, so in Livingston, a really popular area for commuters, That has £193,800 average selling price for these properties. When we moved into the borders, quite a lot of people are looking for just that bit more outdoor space. Galashiels is a really popular area for that. That has £198,400 average selling price. And then just moving into Mid Lothian in Dalkeith, again, a very popular area. That has a £226,200 average selling price for properties these sizes as well. Paul, do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, I think we saw that phenomenon, didn't we? Sort of post-COVID, people moving out to the outlying areas, sort of Fife and the borders did really well. We saw a real increase in speed of sale and price that being achieved. But as you say, still affordable, which doesn't mean anyone shouldn't discount good old likes of Castlefin and Morningside and all these other places. But we thought we'd try and shine a light on where certainly for first-time buyers or first-time sellers, second steppers, where the more affordable homes are. So we hope you enjoyed that. I thought it was a good bit of analysis there, I think, Kimberly.
Exactly.
So speaking of analysis and all things property, if you'd like more information, hopefully you've had a taster of it today. You can have a little look on ESPC.com under the news section. You'll always find the latest house price report. Other articles as well, including pricing strategy paper, third plug, and in addition, a plug for our podcast as well that Megan and I do on a regular basis. We get lots of great guests in talking about the housing market and all things property. So have a look, see what you think. Well, that's the ESPC Digest. We hope you enjoyed that today. Kimberly and I, we really enjoyed ourselves today. Couple of things I just wanted to say at the end. If you have any comments, you can leave those comments for us. You'll either be watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube, so you can leave comments. If you've got any burning questions and you'd like to know more, either contact your ESPC solicitor estate agent, or alternatively, they can contact us, can't they, Kimberly?
Yeah, you can either give us an email on marketing@espc.com, or of course, comment on any of our videos or any of our content, or you can send us a direct message on any of our social platforms as well. We're always open to feedback.
Thanks for engaging with us today and watching. We hope you enjoy that. But from myself, Paul, and from
me, Kimberly,
it's goodbye for now. Goodbye.